Well, welcome to the Middlesex Moments radio show. I'm Dr. Anna Wasesha, president of Middlesex Community College, and joining me today is Kurt Oster. And Kurt is the hospital administrator for Pieper Olson Memorial Hospital. And we'll talk more about that as we get going. I also have Steve Minkler here today. He's the academic dean at Middlesex. He's relatively new. He's been here about 6 months now, so maybe the sense of newness is wearing off. And what we're going to be talking about is our new veterinary technology program. And so Steve has been the person on the college side of the house who's facilitated the adoption of their program, which we'll talk about in a moment. And Kurt's been the person on the Pieper side of the house, making sure that everything was going to work out there. So this is a really innovative program. Veterinary technology itself perhaps not so innovative, but what's innovative is this partnership between the college and Pieper. So why don't we first begin, but Kurt, with why Pieper was interested in this partnership?
Well, we're very excited to be a part of the new partnership with the college for a variety of reasons. One is at the hospital, we've really developed a teaching culture. We've worked with the college, as you know, for approximately 15 years with a veterinary assistant program. And then also at the hospital, we take veterinary externs, which are veterinary students in training. We have a veterinary internship program, which are postgraduates veterinarians in training. So having a program with veterinary technicians in conjunction with the college kind of completes that full circle. We're actually kind of becoming a training facility for all levels of people involved in veterinary medicine. So we're excited about the partnership.
Connecticut doesn't have a College of Veterinary Science at the University of Connecticut, or does it?
That's correct. They do not have a veterinary college. I believe they did try to put one in, I want to say, in the 60s or 70s. But the two closest ones is Tufts in Massachusetts and Cornell in New York.
So, but what about the supply of veterinarians in Connecticut? A smaller number because of the distance of those programs? Or?
Well, actually what's happened is there was a landmark study about 10 or 15 years ago in veterinary medicine that predicted a shortfall in veterinarians. So veterinary medicine responded by increasing the number of veterinary schools and the amount of enrollment. So they're now producing 50% more veterinarians than they did 5 years ago, but there hasn't been a corresponding increase in veterinary technician enrollment in programs to support the veterinarians. So while they're making 50% more veterinarians each year, there's only been about a 5 or 10% increase in veterinary technicians, and that's part of why we have such a shortfall in veterinary technicians in the industry, and we're very excited about this program.
That's good to know. So there's a real occupational demand for the graduates of programs like this.
Tremendous. We see that locally. I mean, it's something that we work with every day. Several of our managers are involved perpetually, always trying to recruit veterinary technicians. But even on a national basis, you can look at a place like California where they have 8,000 veterinarians and 4,000 veterinary technicians, and a typical hospital likes to have 1 to 1.5 technicians per veterinarian. So in the state of California alone, there's a shortage of 6,000 technicians. So the demand locally and nationally is tremendous.
And then I think that must obviously correlate also to the numbers of people who use veterinarians because we have so many domestic animals. But then, of course, does Pieper also deal with the larger animals?
We just deal with predominantly dogs and cats, or what we sometimes refer to as pocket pets, which are the smaller pets with fur, the rabbits, guinea pigs. We ourselves don't do any reptiles or birds, but we do the other small animals.
We had a snake here on campus yesterday, so we could have used some help, but I don't think of it as a pocket pet. Why don't we take a break here, and then when we come back, talk to us about the student side of the house. I mean, why would students be interested, and what would they be getting into if they decided to be a veterinary technician? Well, welcome back. This is Anna Wasesha at Middlesex Community College, and today we're talking with Kurt Oster from Pieper Memorial Hospital and Steve Minkler, the academic dean here at the college, and focus our show today on the new veterinary technology program that is starting in the fall of 2012, which by my count is just about 2 months from now. So Steve, what's it going to be like if a student says, I'd like to do this? What would I be getting into?
Well, what the student will be getting into is a 69 credit associate degree program, and they will have the range of courses that they need to succeed in this field should they decide to be a veterinary technician at Pieper Olson or any other veterinary hospital or vet practice. Unlike many of the programs at Middlesex, though, veterinary technology will be a selective admissions program, and that means that a student has to apply for admission to the college, but also they must have met some prerequisite course requirements before taking veterinary technology courses. So a student who's interested in this program should be able to demonstrate competency in algebra and basic computing skills, because they'll be using a lot of computerized equipment in the vet office and in the hospital, and English 101, college level English. And we want to make sure they have the proper science foundation, so courses in general biology and concepts of chemistry are really important for a student to have before they launch into the vet tech program. We'll be accepting applications for this program beginning late July for beginning the program in September. So a student who enters the vet tech program, if they've met those requirements, would begin this fall by taking courses in Intro to Animal Care, Intro to Vet Tech, which would be sort of a career overview of what's possible in this field, and then some vet-specific science courses like Vet Anatomy and Physiology. It's really intended for a student who can commit more than part-time. Full-time would be preferred, but it's an intensive program, and it's really meant to, within 2.5 years, provide them with all the skills they need to enter the workforce. One of the real keys to this is our relationship with Pieper Olson, because the student is going to be taking a number of courses at the vet hospital. Some of them are courses that they could certainly are similar to what they might take on campus, but there's a set of courses that they would take in their third semester of the program that get into vet anesthesia and nursing skills, laboratory procedures, and imaging or radiology, that the students will have a classroom component but also a hands-on clinical component, that they would be working with the staff and the doctors at the hospital and their faculty to really get the hands-on skills that they need to be able to say, yes, I've performed all these types of procedures and whatnot before they can exit and get a job. I think that's the real win-win here, because a student will have the ability to be in a state-of-the-art, fabulous facility, just something that the college at this point can't have. We just don't have the funds available to put that on our campus. But through this relationship, which Pieper very generously wants to give back to as an educational partner with us, also knowing that this isn't 100% a feeder for their organization as well. So they see this as a way to contribute to the field in a much broader way. And the fact that our students can take advantage of that, there's no guarantee for a job, but they will be very well prepared to have a job after they graduate from us. I think that's the real win-win here for our students.
You know, it makes me think, Kurt, maybe you could talk a little bit about this. What would you say is the philosophy of veterinary care at Pieper? I mean, what's distinctive about it? It has a huge reputation, and I've just been here in Connecticut for a year, and I have to say, my dog and cat have been very well cared for at Pieper. But there must be a philosophy of animal care.
There is a philosophy of animal care, but what's even more important is to not forget the people that are attached to each of those pets. And there's a lot of, people have a lot of choices. There's a lot of veterinary hospitals out there, and we're fond of saying that a lot of them have similar drugs and similar equipment, but what makes the difference is the people, the customer service, the communication, really going above and beyond to communicate with the pet owners, let them know what the status of the pet is, explain what we're doing, always have them involved in the decision making. So it's our kind of tradition for customer service and client access that's really helped be part of our success.
What kinds of people make good veterinary technicians?
Kind of takes a left brain and a right brain both, because as Dr. Minkler just said, you need to have a basic foundation in the sciences, biology and stuff, to be a good technician, because there are a lot of technical skills or scientific skills involved. But you also, again, have to have that empathetic, compassionate people side to really become a successful technician. So you have to master both the technical aspect of things as well as the human aspect. And I think that's what makes the difference between a good or a great veterinarian or a good or a great veterinary technician.
So, Steve, you were going to say something.
Well, I just was going to point out that philosophy we hope to embed in this program as well. So in addition to those hands-on skills that a student's going to learn. There are courses in vet communication and office management which gets to that client relations and the compassion that you have for the animals and their human companions. And that is a thread that we see happening throughout the program. So to have actual practicing vets and vet technicians help us establish that from the very beginning in this program, I think sets the right tone that we need to help students be prepared for the jobs in this field.
Would there be a way for somebody who's never taken a college course to to try out being a vet, to get an idea of what this would be like? I mean, I know we have a non-credit program as well.
Well, a couple ways, at least from the college's side, is that one of the courses that's part of the program is called Intro to Veterinary Technology, and we're making that available to any student who can place into college-level English. Mm-hmm. They don't have to finish that course, but this lets them explore that career field from a classroom standpoint, but also being able to observe what happens at a hospital like Pieper Olson. So from the college's standpoint, we're offering that as a course as a way for them to explore the field. I met with a student this morning, in fact, who her idea was to volunteer at a vet practice to get some experience, to see what it's like. I would recommend that. That's up to the individual student to do. Mm-hmm. And not every vet practice or vet hospital may be willing to do that, but that's certainly worth a conversation or a phone call, from a student to a vet practice to explain what they're going through and to offer to volunteer. Or volunteer at an animal shelter.
I was just going to say
a great way to do that.
Humane societies often need dog walkers.
Yes.
Maybe, cat petters or something. But
exactly. And part of our admission process for the program would be for a student to say that they've either done something like that and show us some evidence of that, or to spend a half a day at Pieper Olson as part of the admission process, just to get the feel for what it's like to work in that environment. And I dare say, I think, students need to understand that being a veterinary technician, and Kurt can speak to this a little better than I can, is not always about, say, grooming. That's a whole other notion of pet care, and that's there's a lot of possibilities for work in that field. But we're talking about animals who are sick, who are going to need perhaps urgent medical care. And I think potential students need to understand this is much like being a nurse at a human hospital in many ways. So there's lots of procedures that people may be involved in that they're not fully aware of up front. So I would definitely encourage them to take the Intro to Vet Tech course to learn about that, and again, to volunteer at a vet hospital or an animal shelter.
And I think that's a good way to describe it. It's very similar to a nurse in human medicine, and there's a lot of different roles that technicians can take inside a veterinary practice. Some will do a lot of work in the laboratory, some will do a lot of work in the hospital wards, treating patients that are there for multiple days that are sick. Some will assist in the monitoring of anesthesia and assist the doctors with surgical procedures. Some will work in the examination room, seeing patients on an outpatient visit, sort of like your family care or general practitioner in human medicine would be. So there's a lot of different aspects to what a technician can do. And in some hospitals, particularly smaller hospitals, technicians rotate through all of those sections. And sometimes in larger hospitals, technicians develop one singular focus. So there's a lot of different options. It's a very flexible program.
It's as you're saying those different specialties, I'm thinking I have this English Springer Spaniel whom I adopted from the Humane Society. This is back in Minnesota, and it turns out he's allergic to just about everything, including grass, which, I don't know how a dog can survive and be allergic to grass. So we took him to a dermatology specialist at the University of Minnesota Vet Hospital, which is where I lived, and it was profoundly comforting to have the resources there, to have specialists. We don't think about it. I think most people don't remember or understand that there are specialists within the field of veterinary science.
We're really coming to a point where all the technology that's available in human medicine is available in veterinary medicine, and a lot of people are surprised to find that we have things like an MRI. Actually, I had to go to my local human hospital and have my shoulder MRI'd a few months ago, and it was the exact same unit that we have at our hospital. But we also have a CAT scan, no pun intended. We have a blood bank. We do orthopedic surgery. So all of the technology that's there, digital radiography, ultrasonography, all of those different things that you would associate with human medicine, we offer in veterinary medicine.
I know. We've got to take a break, but when we come back, let's just keep talking because it's fascinating. Well, we're back, and this is Anna Wasesha from Middlesex Community College, and I've got Kurt Oster here today from Pieper Memorial Hospital, and Steve Minkler, who's the academic dean here at the college, and we're talking about animals and veterinary technology. And just before the break, Kurt mentioned that there were blood banks at the vet hospital, so I did have to ask if you do blood drives or how you actually get a supply of blood that's available, I suppose, for surgeries and other emergency procedures on animals. How does that work?
Sure. In some ways, it's very similar to human medicine. In some ways, it's a little bit different. In human medicine, a lot of times they'll get blood from the public and then they put it through a very extensive screening process. In veterinary medicine, we have very specific preventive healthcare protocols that the donors have to go through. So they actually enroll in our program to become a blood donor. And the majority of our blood donors right now are employee pets, but we also have some client pets in the program. So we can, when we need, actually collect whole blood from these pets that we use for sick pets or pets undergoing surgery where there's a lot of potential blood loss involved. We also there's a network of national pet blood banks out there where we can order other blood products like plasma and packed red blood cells and so forth, which we can use in different procedures and treatments. We actually can order in an overnight blood products to have available for procedures as we need them.
Does it get typed like A, B, and O?
Slightly different, but yes, and there is quote unquote some universal donor blood, different designation, so we usually have that available. I know with cats, and again, I'm in administration, so I hope I'm speaking medically correctly here, but cats have predominantly two blood types, and I believe that one is fairly prevalent in North America, and there's only a very small portion of cats here that have the other blood type that's common in Europe. And since one of our veterinarians went to vet school in Europe and she adopted some cats when she was out there, she actually has some cats of her own that have the European blood type.
Now, Steve, we were talking about, Kurt just mentioned that one veterinarian who's from Europe or went to school in Europe. And the veterinarian that you've hired to be the program coordinator went to school in the Caribbean, I think.
Yes, Dr. Kristen Fradamico, who actually is a staff veterinarian at Pieper Olson Hospital. She's coming on board as our interim program director for the year. She did attend veterinary school in the Caribbean, but had all of her competencies and credentials transferred to the U.S. And she's licensed in Connecticut and in New York. And interestingly, her name is floated around here at the college, just trying to put her on the schedule and all, and a lot of our staff members here bring their pets to Pieper and they know her and they're just ecstatic about her involvement with the program. She's got a really good so-called bedside manner, as we talked about earlier. Obviously knows her stuff if Pieper's had her on staff, and Pieper's vets speak very highly of her too. So we're excited to have her on board, and part of this for her will be a learning experience running an academic program. She has the background to do this, but she's very excited about being on the ground floor of the vet tech program at Middlesex.
She's also got the special cachet of having done an internship or a postdoc or something like that in Minnesota, right? So
yes,
I give her the stamp of approval.
From you,
right,
yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the other thing that's unique that she brings is that she also went through a veterinary technology program when she was younger, and she was a licensed veterinary technician. She has her New York veterinary license, and in New York you can't have dual licenses, so she actually had to let her veterinary technician license expire because the state wouldn't allow her to have both. But she actually was a licensed veterinary technician before going to veterinary school, so she brings that perspective. She's actually been on both sides of the equation.
Yeah, that's great. And she's also a model for somebody who might actually start out on this path and then go all the way to veterinary school and become a veterinarian. Yeah, it's a terrific thing for young people to see, I think.
Yeah, because one of the things that they should see in this program too is the interaction between veterinarians, veterinary technicians, and other staff at the hospital. And much like the mantra is in human medicine, it's a teamwork approach, and you're a member of the healthcare team. And because she has both perspectives, I think she can speak to both of those equally well. And as you say, be a good role model for the students who want to go through the program.
So now, of course, we want anyone out in the listening audience who either is interested themselves or knows somebody who's interested in a program like this to get some more information. So what would they do?
Well, they should visit the college's website, www.mxcc.edu. There's a little search box, so they can do a search for veterinary technology or veterinary, and they'll see the outline of the academic program, some information about the admissions process, contact information for Dr. Fratamico and for our admissions office. We don't have the admissions application ready today, so that should be ready by the end of July, and for courses that begin the end of August, so we'll get that turned around for applicants pretty quickly. They can also call the admissions office at the college directly for more information. The admissions office has been also keeping track of students who have previously asked about this program in the past. Either visit the website or call admissions at MxCC.
Well, I think probably one of the things that students might be curious about is whether or not this is accredited.
Well, actually, there's two forms of accreditation. This program will be accredited because the college is accredited as an educational institution. So what we intend to seek is professional accreditation from the governing body that oversees veterinary colleges and veterinary technician programs, and that's organization is known as the American Veterinary Medical Association. Accreditation, much like for the academic part of everything, is a very rigorous process where the AVMA will come in and look at our academic program. They'll look to make sure that we are giving students the correct range of skills and access to different species of animals, different types of procedures that they will be doing, different types of animal care, ways of communicating with clients, and they're very specific about what they're looking for, and they make it easy for a college to make sure that they have that in their program through things like essential skills lists and essential equipment lists. So once our program gets rolling, we'll invite the AVMA to come do a site visit, and that's typically done at the point of the first class of students has completed about 2/3 of the program. So let's say about a year from now, perhaps, maybe a year and a half from now, they would come visit us. They would look at the program. We'd have to give them all sorts of documentation about what we've done to provide students with these skills opportunities, as well as how we've assessed them. At that point, give us an opinion on probationary accreditation and allow our first class to graduate. And then after that, look at the scores of those students on a national exam known as the Veterinary Technician National Exam. And that is sort of a summative assessment of how well the program has done on a nationally scored level. After that point, they would give us an opinion on full accreditation. After that, the AVMA would visit our program every 6 years. We'd have to file reports every couple of years just to give them a sense of the progress of the program. And it's really meant to be a collaborative process where they support the program to make sure we have the resources we need and that we're well prepared to offer this program by virtue of our facilities and our faculty and staff.
So it's going to be similar in a way to our ophthalmic program and our radiological technology program. It's the gold standard is to not only have our own college approve it, but to have an external body who really has the perspective of the national scene and certainly the scope of practice and all of the other sorts of things that they need to be sure that programs are excellent. So I'm very happy to hear about that. We just have a few minutes left that maybe after we've gotten through all of this kind of the business and the underlying part of this program, let's talk about why it would be rewarding to have a career in veterinary science in general and as a technician.
Well, one of the things we talk about in veterinary medicine all the time is the human-animal bond, and it's certainly become much more recognized, and most of the studies will tell you that it's much stronger these days, that the majority of pet owners don't just think of their pet as a pet, they think of it as a member of the family. So there's very, very close connections between pets and their pet owners, and so being able to either help make sure that pet lives a long and healthy life if you're involved in preventive health care, or to help that pet and those pet owners through an emergency or a very difficult diagnosis, like a diagnosis of cancer or whatever, to see that pet get treated, do well, go home, and be reunited with their family and do very well is very, very rewarding. So there's a lot of pride to be taken in those positive and happy outcomes that we see every day.
It's a very kind of cultural thing, isn't it? The relationship between pet and their owner.
Yeah, and you really see a lot of it in pop culture, and a couple of things that stick in mind is next time you're watching television, think of how many pets are involved in television commercials, regardless of what the item is, whether it's breakfast cereal or cars or whatever, there's pets in the television commercial because the testing's found that there's a much more positive response, and consciously or subconsciously people pay much more attention to it if there's a pet involved. So you see that. You see things, whatever your email service is, when you log onto your homepage all the time, you see things like what percentage of people have a birthday party for their dog, or what percent of people got their cat a Christmas gift or whatever. And it really is amazing numbers.
I absolutely love that. And of course, I love my dog and my cat, so I can completely relate to it. Thank you so much for coming over today to be on this radio show. And thanks, Steve, for helping us to understand what's involved for prospective students if they would like to come to Middlesex. I think I'm excited to be just even on the orbiting on the outside of this program, and I look forward to seeing it actually unfold. I would like to invite listeners who are interested to learn more about our college in general to go to mxcc.edu for more information. And Pieper, I believe, would have a website address as well. What is it?
Yes, we have two, ctvet.com, which is for Pieper Olson Veterinary Hospital, and pipermemorial.com, which is for Pieper Memorial Veterinary Center, our 24-hour emergency facility.
That's good to know in general about that 24-hour emergency service. And this is a great partnership now between Pieper and Middlesex. We're happy to get it launched. Thanks, Steve, for being on the program today, and we will be back next week.